Mel's Beam. I'm Victor Matthias. Now, it is an ever-changing world where technology on a consistent basis changes the way things are done in every facet of life. And as people on a daily basis strive to better their lives by engaging in meaningful endeavors and jobs to earn, the labor space, or labor force, if you like, due to technology, keeps expanding and providing more alternatives and options with modern tech workplace skills that will, in the long run, boost the economy, reduce poverty, and improve livelihoods. Now, this will be our focus on the program today, but let's first take a look at the trending topics in the past week.
Nigerians didn't relent in their call to see justice is done for the late Afrobeat singer Ileroluwa Aloba, a.k.a. Mohbad, as they held nationwide protests demanding justice. This led to the police exhuming his corpse and carrying out an autopsy so as to ascertain the cause of the death of the singer. Politicians and monarchs allegedly linked with those alleged to have bullied, traumatized and harassed the late singer have also come out to deny any links, despite pictorial evidence that was shared widely on social media. In the repeat of what transpired in Chibok 9 years ago, gunmen stormed the Federal University Gusau and abducted students and girls from their dormitories. The Nigerian military has since swung into action, rescuing most of the abductees with a promise to not stop until everyone abducted regains freedom.
Well, there you go. Those were the trends. Quite all right, I must say. But moving on now, we have been joined by Lighty Hisulo. He is a creative and innovative brand strategist who incorporates cutting-edge technology in delivering unique designs. He joins us right here in our Abuja studio. It's a pleasure to have you join us on the show today.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. We also have joining us from our Lagos studios, the head research strategy and intelligence at Datalium, Temitope Karim. It's a pleasure to have you on the show as well, Temitope.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, absolutely, and welcome to the show. But Light kicks out the conversation for us. Like I said earlier on, it's an ever-changing world. Things change, how we do things change, but now how we earn, how we work, we're beginning to see new patterns. Adaptability seems to be a problem, but people are adapting, on a daily basis again. But what are these patterns, first of all?
Well, in the tech space, we see a lot of learning-based softwares that come up every single time. And these softwares basically, to a large extent, help humanity flexibly operate in certain standards. Now, when it comes to work culture, to a large extent, tech-based skills are basically revolutionizing the way people work right now. And this is not just about people acquiring skill and using this skill for daily experiences or exercises, but look at maybe in the design skill or maybe in building programs or softwares right now. You can see it's a little bit easier compared to the previous years. Previously, I remember when I started learning most of the softwares I know how to use currently. I use over 40 design softwares currently, and it was a very, very difficult process for me when I was learning most of these softwares. But right now, most of the things are basically simplified. And the reason why most of these tech-based skills are simplified is to accommodate more people. And it helps to also boost the rate at which productivity is achieved in work premises, and also the rate at which people earn even better compared to how it was a bit difficult to earn through tech-related skill sets. So, yeah.
So what adaptability now, we have a high rate, of unemployment in the country, the high rate of poverty as well, high rates of out-of-school children. I mean, they might be kids, but as we always say, catch them young. How do we bridge the gap that we currently have, with all of these indices, gory indices, I must add, how do we bridge the gap so that we have more people adapting, to the current trends?
Okay, to the current trends, bridging the gap, yeah. So now this brings me to most of the projects that we are working in our company currently. And what we've been doing recently is to flexibly express the way people understand that tech is quite easier compared to the previous years. And for the aspect of adaptability, I strongly feel like most people right now in the current tech society, it's easier for them to adapt to certain skill. But those that are not really into tech, it's also easier for them to adapt. This is where skill acquisition programs come in. Educating people beyond the current phase, how they can actually use these online skill sets to increase the rate at which they earn. Because right now you see a lot of people that are entrepreneurs, and how do they gain entrepreneurial skills is through most of these tech-related skills. You see someone that is basically a designer, the person is already a CEO of a company and basically hires more people because of the rate at which he or she is flexible enough to express the skill sets or use them to satisfy clients' needs. So I think to bridge that gap, I strongly feel like this is where enlightenment programs come in, and also educating people even better through online platforms. Of course, YouTube is there, many other platforms that people can basically go and they learn skills. By so doing, I strongly feel like the rate of unemployment in the country will basically reduce. Like for me, it took a little bit of time for me to work with certain organizations. How I basically got most of the skill set I know how to do right now is online platforms. I learned most of these things, and from there I started realizing that, oh, I can actually even make 10 naira, 5 naira, or so amount of money through the skill set I basically know how to use. So it's if more people actually blend themselves into learning more skill sets and adapting to the culture of technology right now in developing themselves psychologically or mentally, or in the aspect of skill acquisition, I strongly feel like the rate at which unemployment is a bit rampant right now in underdeveloped world, like in the urban areas or maybe the rural areas of the country. I strongly feel like with this skill set, you can earn more jobs online and also work for international organizations.
Yeah, so one of the things, you said that struck me is, self, development. You have to actually, take the bull by the horn, not wait for initiatives by the government or by NGOs or, those ahead. But let me just hold you there for a bit. Let's quickly head to our Lagos studio where we have Temitope Karim standing by. Temitope, again, it's a pleasure to have you join us on the show. We're looking at patterns. We're looking at new skill sets that are available in the workplace, be it locally, be it, internationally. And, first off, we're thinking, okay, these skill sets, positions are open. However, the ability to fill them is becoming a problem. But I mean, in your own estimation, how do you think we can bridge the gap? How do you think we can change the narrative, and move the needle in the right way?
Thank you very much for having me once again. I think just looking at the world that we have today, a lot of things have changed. Technology is rapidly evolving day by day, right? Artificial intelligence is making things that seemed very difficult some years ago very seamless now, right? So just looking at, based on what you've asked, right, I think it's very important to first of all understand that the challenge is not more about having to learn the skills, because you can learn from almost anywhere now, right? The knowledge is readily available. It's at your fingertips. For some people, it's even an overload of knowledge, right? So I think for me, it's important to first of all understand what you want to learn, because there are different fields in technology. People can want to become data analysts, you can want to be a data scientist, you can want to be a UI UX designer. There are so many things for you to do. So the first thing is to identify your personal skill sets, right? Understand the kind of things that align with you, and then pick up a skill from there and just begin to learn. And one thing I love about the skills of today, speaking about tech skills, is it's a great equalizer. It zeroes out away from the fact that you need to have 5 years work experience. It's all about what you can actually do with these skills, right? Okay, you said you're a data analyst. How proficient are you with the tools that are used in the workplace of today, right? So when you build up that capacity, you're able to get international jobs, local jobs that are paying very well, and it just changes the lifespan of things that have been beyond you, right? So it's something that is very important. We need to keep on speaking about this. And if you look at the developed world, even from the young age, they are being exposed to these things. So I think that moving forward, right, as a country, as a nation, even as a state, is something that we need to embrace. It's something that we need to continue to speak about, and it's something that we need to champion, right? And from us at the Italium as an organization, we always push this out, right? You know that we are all about giving value. It's important to note that over the 4 years of our operation, we've trained over 25,000 people in tech skills, right? And looking at the growth of our alumni over time, right? After our classes, they're able to begin to do a lot of wonderful things. People that are already employed gain promotions. People that are looking for opportunities are able to get great jobs, right? And this just speaks to the fact that we are doing something great, right? And I'm sure that there are a lot of other platforms where you can learn these things, but it's very important that the youth of today, even our teenagers, right, they need to begin to look outward. Don't just look at becoming a doctor, don't just look at becoming a lawyer. There are a lot of opportunities out there for you. And I believe that technology is something that is going to revolutionize the world. It's already doing that, but there's a whole lot more that it's going to do. Thank you.
Well, absolutely. Leaving out all the personal things you're doing, looking at self-proficiency now, Light alluded to the fact that one has to perhaps take control or make use of online what's it called now? Online materials, be it on YouTube, be it on websites and all of that. That's like on one hand, but people some would not be able to learn on that basis alone. They would prefer to have a one-on-one kind of mentorship with, say, a mentor or someone who has been there, done all of that. How can that space not be breached? Because you might not even be able to meet some of the people who you look up to in the industry. So how can that opportunity be availed to those who are quite interested in all of those skill sets that you mentioned? Data analysis, UI designer, UX designer, and all of that. What can be done to bridge that gap?
Personnel. So for someone that is, for example, let's say you have an interest in data analysis, you have learned a bit of things, right? You've been able to practice, but you just want more of a guidance, someone that can guide you to become more. I think the first thing you need to identify is look out for professionals in this space, look out for thought leaders in this space, right? It could be an international person, it could be a local person, right? I think it's high time that we break free from being afraid, we break free from being shy. Just reach out to them, right? It could be through the social media, because I'm sure a lot of us would be on social media, right? Could just try and reach out to them, share what you've been able to do, share your experience, share your growth story, and I'm sure that people will be able to relate with that, and they'll also be able to help, right? I understand that for everyone, everybody's story is different. Not everybody will be able to just learn on their own and level it up from there. Some people would prefer a more guided approach, a more, like you mentioned, a more like one-on-one mentorship approach. And this is fine because everybody is different. So I think for me, I'll just advise people like that in this bracket, right? Just first, you need to identify people that you can reach out to. And these are people that are, like you mentioned, they are thought leaders in their area of expertise. Reach out to them, share what you have done, because everybody is busy. So people would like to work with someone that already has a certain level of guidance and diligence in this work that they are doing. And from there, they can now help you to level up to where you now want to be. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, let me bring this again to you. In terms of, having this one-on-one, I mean, someone like you've been there, done that, so to speak, like you said. You currently use over 40, design applications and all of that. Someone would want to, how would I put it now? Would want to drink, from this stream that you have broken open, and just get this first-hand experience. How can that link happen?
Okay, for these, I see a lot of people, like, especially on my Instagram, a lot of people just come into my Instagram and they're like, I love what you do. Please, can you teach me? And I don't see that as a problem. And I also feel like there's a learning curve for every single stage in every man's life. And for the online platform, which is literally one of the most effective for me, I literally learned almost everything I know how to do today online, right? But then when I started, it was a bit frustrating. Like, the frustration was there, trust me. When you're about, maybe you're watching a tutor online and then he drags something and then you drag it and yours goes completely AWA compared to what he did on the screen. It can be a bit destabilizing. That is where physical mentorship or physical training comes into play. And I feel like it's not a problem for you, just like as you mentioned, it's not a problem for you to identify the people within this particular industry that you find yourself interested in. Well, let's give an instance. I've been a designer majority of my life. I know how to do certain things, cutting through 3D animations, cinematic effects. When I even went into designing virtual reality systems, complex virtual reality simulations, and the likes of them, it was quite difficult for me to do. Now, when I went into web software and website development, it wasn't exciting at first. Seeing lines of code coming in front of you, you want to just break that system screen, especially when you're faced with a bug. But that's where people that I actually felt like were professionals in this field came into play, right? I had to approach them and discuss with them, okay, this was a problem. Just as you mentioned as well, a lot of people are actually busy. People want to actually see how effective you've gone. If you're looking for someone that can actually give you proper directives on certain things, to a large extent, you should have been, exactly, you should have shown a level of input. You can't go around and beg people for money when you don't even have something that can actually bring that.
As we now say now, show workings.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, so let me just hold you there for a bit. We need to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at what the government is doing, because there have been announcements as to the millions of jobs that the government wants to create in terms of especially in the digital world. So we'll take a look at all of that when we come back in a moment. Please stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. We still have with us our panelists in the Lagos as well as the Abuja studio. And we're looking at acquiring, 21st century technology skills to be able to fit in the workplace in the 21st century as well. Well, just before we go on the break, I was talking about how the federal government has made commitments. First of all, the president made mention of the fact that the federal government will, create about 1 million jobs, digital jobs. And we saw how one of the big techs keyed into the program and said, oh, we can help you to do this. And similarly, we also saw a commercial bank, coming in to say, oh, would key into your drive of providing, or making available these tech skills, and jobs as well. And then they put their own figure at 2 million. I mean, these are statements, these are policy statements, but what's the reality of achieving this?
All right, great. So the reality of achieving this with the government, I feel like, to a large extent, it's realistic. But then this is where individual approaches has to come in play. Now, we can't exactly say, okay, let me give an instance. Lognetics, that's my company. We are working on a project called Explore. And of recent, I realized that there was a center called the Incubation Center in Abuja here. And do you know what the Incubation Center basically does? They basically bring young tech talents, house them, groom them, and then make them learn better skill sets. But the truth is this, I basically sat down and I started making research. Is it a federal government program? Yeah, it's a project by the government. And I sat down and I started making research. Do a lot of people actually know about these projects? People might know, but the rate at which most people know that these projects are actually existing is very slim, right? You see, most times the private sector actually do most of these single-handedly, of course with the backing of governments certain times. But now the government coming in and mentioning that they will bring so and so number of jobs through digital skill set, I think it's realistic. But this is where we basically need to put in more attention into. We as individuals as well, we should also help, right? We can't just basically sit down and say, okay, if the government doesn't put this skill set out there in front of us, then we shouldn't even go about it with our daily personal learning skills or personal developments learning curve. And for me, I would basically say that the government have tried to, by bringing up this initiative, and also the private sectors as well, and the banks and most of those that are actually part of the sponsors or partners of most of these projects, they've also done a very huge part. We as individuals as well, we can also still do our part by helping out, learning these skills as well, and also listening attentively to the points where the government, listening attentively when the government mentions certain availabilities of these skills for humans to use. So yeah, that's basically the only way it can be very realistic for we as individuals to key into what the government have in plan. If the government comes tomorrow and says that they are going to produce 2 million jobs and there are no people that basically keys into that particular drive for the government, then I think that it will only reduce the rate at which the 2 million jobs is quite going to be achievable. That's personally to me. Absolutely.
Let me get to Temitope's thoughts on this. Temitope, looking at the commitments and the partnerships, and like Light now said, the personal. How would I put it? The personal drive to see this happen. In your own estimation, how do you think this can work? What do you think needs to be done beyond just making the announcements to ensure that this pronouncements turn into become a reality?
All right, thank you very much. I strongly believe that it's a good one from the side of the government. It shows that they are also being driven by the technology around them, and they've also identified this as something that has to be done. But yeah, riding on what my co-panelists mentioned, it's important that they also work hand in hand, right, with industry players, thought leaders in this area, because, right, yeah, 1 million or 2 million or even 3 million jobs is a huge number, right? But realistically, we have the numbers in Nigeria, and it's something that can be achieved, right? So I believe that coming up with a solid framework involving industry players that already have strong understanding of this training processes, what it involves, how to go about it, it makes brings more synergy into this thing and ensures that it's successful at the end of the day, right? So from the standpoint of the government, yeah, it's an amazing one, right? But just riding on what they've already done, they need to bring in a lot of thought industry leaders into this to ensure that they don't just work on it from their end, but also work from it from what is actually relatable on the ground, right? And I also believe that in doing this, it shouldn't also be a general framework. They need to understand that from these numbers that are being put out there, a lot of people have different approach to learning, different approach to gaining new skills. So there has to be different criteria involved, understanding how they can segment the kind of people that they want to train so that the training is going to be effective in the long run, right? So it's a great one, and based on the timeline that was given, I believe that with proper execution and planning, putting proper strategies into place, just like I mentioned earlier, working with industry leaders is something that is highly achievable, right? But there has to be a lot of work done. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, we can't wait for all of that work to be done. We can't wait for all of the partnerships, to be made and for this to work. I mean, 3 million jobs in the economy currently is going to do a lot. It's going to take a lot of Nigerians, young Nigerians, out of the job market or the labor force, like I said earlier, and it will boost the economy because they will earn, and in turn, they would spend. But let's hope all of that happens quite soon. But I have to say thank you to you, Temi Tokwe, Karim, for joining us on the show and sharing your thoughts on this.
Very much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Lights, thanks as well to you for joining us on the show.
Thank you, sir.
And sharing your thoughts. It's been a pleasure. But it's a continued conversation, would always come back to it when things, again, happen in the industry. But that's all we'll have to wrap it up today. Thank you so very much for watching. As always, again, we'll leave you all with the most viewed videos on our YouTube channel in the past week. I'm Victor Matthias. Bye for now.
A lot of people want to do music because they have the talent. A lot of people want to do music because they feel they actually broke, now.
Kicking off this week's most viewed video is the explanation given by artist K Solo about how most record labels have run.
Contracts that, for people who have been in the industry, if you get through it or probably get a lawyer to go through, you ask yourself, like, why would you sign this? This is slavery.
And on the 12th of September...
It's followed by a Channels television special on the life and times of late Afrobeat singer Ilerioluwa Aloba, popularly known as Mohbad.
In fundamental ways, nature has been kind to Africa, given abundant land, resources.
Third Sports sees the address by President Bola Tinubu at the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly.
Man has too often been unkind to fellow man, and this sad tendency has brought sustain.
Please, Lagos State government, come to our aid. This is the second time in a few days now.
Second Sport is taken by the ordeal of Lagos residents after floods submerged communities.
Out of the road, there's a car sunk inside there.
While the most viewed video is the candlelight procession held to demand justice for Mohbad.
First, I want to introduce Mohbad's family and sisters,